lived on a dirt road surrounded by farms. No one in my family was into fashion, unless you count the threadbare sneakers full of holes that my dad wore as fashion. I wasn't even that into fashion myself, at least not in practice. I loved magazines, but hardly ever experimented with personal style until college. For a brief time, I enjoyed fashion immensely, and even showed promise of being good at it. I was awarded Best Dressed in my sorority, which was probably just a nice way of saying you're trying harder than everyone else. And yet, for as much as I enjoyed clothes in college, I struggled with them too. I found myself stuck between two worlds. Within the context of my faith and my values about money and beauty, I felt guilty buying clothes, even if I really needed them. In my early 20s, I tried earnestly to set out the topic of fashion altogether, to disastrous effect. I had a string of embarrassing faux pas, including running into my ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend while wearing a Teletubbies t-shirt. It was a free t-shirt, guys, and I was on a budget. I also lost a promising job opportunity because I was too cheap to buy a proper suit. I had numerous embarrassing situations at work when I realized I was dressed like a teenager, so no one was taking me seriously. And while living in Boston, I failed to properly dress for the elements, which meant I was often miserably cold. As I entered adulthood and started my career, a new message about fashion was emerging, that clothing can't be avoided. In our critical, appearance-driven society, clothing is an important form of nonverbal communication that can mean the difference between landing the job or not, even if that's completely unfair. And it can prevent the all-over body numbness that accompanies walking to work in freezing cold Boston winters. But style goes so much deeper than just keeping us warm and helping us find success at work. I'm talking about the fundamental questions of a woman's heart and her longing to feel beautiful. How do our self-esteem and self-worth fit into the picture of personal style? And what if you're like me, and fashion is your art form, a precious part of your soul, where you long to be creative and express yourself through beauty? Can this passion play out in a healthy way within the context of our faith? The turning point for me, that is, the compromise that allowed me to honor both my faith and my art, was setting a clothing budget, which we'll talk about in detail in Chapter 8. I finally felt free to explore the creativity and passion that had been there all along. I went deeper and deeper into the fashion world, unlocking a joy I hadn't experienced before, and eventually starting my fashion blog, Jay's Everyday Fashion, in 2010. While my mission for my blog has always been about providing a place of positivity and light in the fashion journalism industry, this is my first time broaching the subject of fashion and faith, because even with a clothing budget and a clearer understanding of how to balance the two, I still cowered anytime I met someone in a Christian setting like church. I either wouldn't mention what I did for a living, or I'd immediately launch into a little spiel about why it's possible to love Jesus and blog about fashion. I'm sure my obvious insecurities convinced no one, because I still needed to settle the relationship between these two personal fundamentals myself. I needed to find a balance and a reckoning between the faith I was raised in and my love for Jesus, and the career and hobby that I love and believe I was made to do. I set out to write this book not to convince readers of what's in my heart or that I'm doing, quote, fashion and faith well. I realized that it could be easy to come away with the complete opposite impression. Instead, writing this book was an important part of my own journey. In order to reconcile the tension between fashion and faith in my life, I needed to ask the tough questions and study scripture, and in doing so, I found a peace I had never thought possible. I hope by sharing that journey with you here, along with stories from other women, I can help people like me find a little peace and resolution in their own journey too. I'm also excited to share the new twists and turns my fashion journey has taken lately. For more than 6 years, the mission statement behind my blog has been fashion on a budget and the look for less. When you read about my personal journey with money, this will totally make sense. Growing up in a super frugal household, I felt excluded from fashion because of my socioeconomic status. And Jay's Everyday Fashion has always been about bridging that gap and making an online magazine where everyone feels included. By recreating celebrity outfits for a lot less and rebelliously doing side-by-side comparisons of my outfits next to theirs, I set out to prove that you don't need $1 million to achieve the same look. Recently, several relationships and experiences were placed in my path, which I believe were a total God thing. I found myself traveling to Haiti and India, where I learned more about the garment industry, immersing myself in the topics of fair wages and clothing's impact on the environment. I came away with a fresh outlook and a sense of global responsibility that I'm excited to share with you in Chapter 9. Whether you're a hairdresser,